Now let's focus on getters. If you remember your PHP Piscine, or if you have some experience with object-oriented programming, then you already know what getters are, but I will explain it clear for everyone. We know we often have in our class private attributes, and to be frank, in practice, all the attributes of a class are private. However, we'd like to know the value of some attributes, or be able to change the value of these attributes. But to avoid any mess in our class, you want to offer proxy functions. That would be the interface between the user and your private attribute to be sure that the values are always correct. These little writing and reading proxy functions are getters. They are usually prefixed by get and set, allowing respectively to get the value of an attribute, _foo in our case, and set the value of an _foo attribute. In the declaration of my class, you can see that I have in my private zone an integer named _foo. I don't want my user to be able to access directly my attribute. It's mine. I do with it what I want. However, I want him to have a certain access over which I can make a control. For that, I have two functions for my user preset in the public zone. They are get and set on my getter. Usually we like to keep a certain naming convention. Get, followed by the name of the getter. Set, followed by the name of the getter. That said, it's just a convention. You do as you want, but always make sure we can get the idea just by reading the declaration of your class. Note that we are starting to do some serious C++. So I'd like to insist on the fact that I added const here, because a getter may only access in read-only mode and won't alter the content of my class. Remember what we saw in video 6. The implementation will be very simple. Here, I just pass directly the constructor and the destructor to our little getters. My getFoo bracket getter, the one that will grant a read-only access to our attribute. They're not altering the current instance. I will just return a copy of my _foo attribute. This way, if the user decides to change this, it won't change the current state of my class. I'd like my _foo variable to be changed by the user. But I don't want the _foo to have a negative value. For that, I'll be able to use my right getter, setFoo brackets. Take as a parameter the value my user wants to assign my private attribute _foo, and check if this value is greater than 0. If, and only if, this value is greater than 0, I assign the value. If the user sent, say, -42, using this code, we can see that the value wouldn't have been changed, and the user's action would have been ignored. Of course, this is just an example. In real life, you have to report an error. Write in a log or something. Inform the user that something went wrong. We could also replace the void return type by a boolean to be able to inform the user that their change has been applied. It's all up to you. I'm just introducing you the principle today. In practice, it's very simple. These are standard member functions. We'll be able to set foo bracket to 42 or set foo bracket to -42. And thanks to get foo brackets, see the impact it might have on our private attribute _foo. Let's compile. Compile. It compiles. I run it. We can see that the _foo was initially set to 0. So the first time, I'm asking it to assign the value 42. 42 being greater than 0, the setFoo setter works, no problem. And remember, on the second line of the main brackets, I decided to set at -42. negative 42 being lower than 0, the assignment isn't made, and at the second output the value of the underscore foo attribute is unchanged. There hasn't been any modification. That's it. Getters are a very useful feature that I encourage you to use, and even overuse. Sometimes you won't have to write a setter, just a getter. Sometimes your getter will allow you to aggregate data, or transform the result. Say you have a class dealing with money or monetary values, and your setter is able to take as a parameter a currency in which you want to have the return. You process in an agnostic way the value in your class. You don't know they are francs or dollars. You decide, but it has nothing to do with your user. And when the user calls this value, they can specify a currency. Then you return after doing the math in your getter, the relevant currency. This allows you to have control over what you provide to the user when you are writing. It allows to have some control on what the user provides you to make sure that the values make sense. That's it. It was really very simple. I won't go any further on this topic. I'll see you in the next video.